What is up, guys? Welcome back to CageChat MMA. We are here for the UFC 263 recap. Of course, Saturday night gave us some tremendous fights, some tremendous moments, and of course, we're going to be breaking them all down right now. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to go follow us on social medias at CageChat MMA on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And let's get into the recap. Now, of course, Israel Adesanya took on Marvin Vettori in the main event on Saturday night and gave us a very dominant performance, a champion's performance, one that, going into the site, there's questions, not of his legitimacy as a middleweight champion or as a fighter, but after the loss to Jan Blachowicz, there was a question of, had there been a blueprint set out to beat Israel Adesanya? Had there been, had the champion who was undefeated lost his shine, you could say, but he certainly added stock to his middleweight title defence with a perfect performance on Saturday night, which at moments got a little bit sketchy, especially if you're an Israel Adesanya fan. There was times where, personally, I was on the edge of my seat, especially when Marvin Vettori had wrapped those hooks up and was going for that rear naked choke, although it only lasted 20-30 seconds before Adesanya got out of it, and he was impressed with Adesanya on Saturday night in terms of once the fight got to the floor, he was out and back on his feet very quickly. At one point, he pushed off the fence, using his environment around him to get out of positions, and he was phenomenal in the night. His head movement was phenomenal. His the leg kicks were devastating. They really started chopping the trees down, and the foundation from Vettori, from which he probably would have used a lot more. The wrestling, going off that lead foot, using the power to engage with Adesanya in the grappling and the clinching, and it felt like For Vettori, it did feel like a performance from someone who was making their first pay-per-view headline. It felt like he was a little bit flat-footed, a little bit not lost in the headlights, but didn't know what to do. It looked like maybe the environment just got a little bit too much for him. Of course, he'd main evented in the Apex, but I don't believe he'd main evented outside that. At least he's not main evented on a card of that magnitude with so much on the line. But it was a solid performance from him. No real stock loss from him. Of course, coming into this, he beat HERMANSSON and Kevin Holland, who was 6th and 10th respectively. So he can get back into this position, and maybe not while Adesanya's champion. It looks like obviously Adesanya's going to be facing WHITAKER next. Whether that's going to happen in October, November, could happen at MSG if New York's open at that point. I know they want to do it in Auckland, maybe on Fight Island. Adesanya was talking about, but there was no love lost to Marvin Vettori, no respect lost to Marvin Vettori. It just wasn't his night. It was the night for Adesanya to show just how special of an athlete he is, especially in the 185-pound division. Yes, he tried to go up to 205, didn't work out for him. And I think that, again, there was a question about, was it just a size differential? Was it a weakness of Israel Adesanya? He showed on Saturday night that it wasn't a weakness of his. But let's have a quick look at the statistics, of course. That's a tape even. Let's have a quick look at the results, of course. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Let's have a look at the results, of course. We've got Adesanya versus defeating Marvin Vettori, 122 strikes to 208, 91 out of 211 death for Vettori, 96 out of 181, and 58 out of 126, and of course 4 out of 14 successful takedowns. So as you see there, 10 successfully defended there by Adesanya, and it does show, that it does show how different it is between 205 and 185, and the difference between the two powers, I guess, the two strengths, you could say, between 185 and 205. Because I'd imagine, had this fight taken place, upper division, it could have been a little bit different for the two. Obviously, both came in under that 185-pound limit on the night. But yeah, it did show that 185 is Adesanya's kingdom, and he deserves to be there at the very top. Obviously, again, it's with all due respect, it's a little bit crazy that it was Kelvin Gastelum that gave him his toughest fight. But again, I think that was his first time main event, and it was his biggest moment, Adesanya that is, and it was the night in which he really put himself at the top of that division. Since then, it's been not a completely easy ride, but he's come off unfazed and unhurt from the majority of his fights, really. Obviously, he only went the distance with Yoel Romero, which again wasn't the greatest fight, but again, it takes two to tango, and Romero didn't really bring the fight to him, and he didn't have to. And as a champion, it isn't the champion's job to go out and take the fight and get a finish. He just has to defend what's his. So yes, he did the same on Saturday night, defended what is his, and he called out Robert Whittaker. It was a perfect display from him. Again, we spoke on the preview on Saturday night, the three stanzas of the fight, the build-up and the walking in, the fight itself and walking out. And he did everything perfectly to a T. He walked in with this mask and you're thinking, we've seen it with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder in the rematch, the backlash, and we've seen it before with Adesanya, with the dancing, the extravagant walkouts, which personally I love, but with that comes a pressure of winning. Because if you lose that, you become a meme on social media now. You just go, you just focus too much on the intro or whatever. But he came in perfect, got the job done, and he called out Robert Whittaker immediately. And as a champion, you don't have to call anyone out. You can just say, job's done, I'm waiting for the next contender. But Adesanya likes to fight. He was supposed to probably fight Robert Whittaker before the Tory in this, in a perfect world, but obviously Robert Whittaker wanted a little bit more time. He's going to get a bit more time now, and it seems like Adesanya didn't take any damage, so that fight should be able to be made October, November-ish, and we can see those two go at it. Once again, it's just a question of the where rather than when and if. So yes, the Vettori, he called out Paulo Costa. I do like that fight. I think Paulo Costa's a good shout out, and to have a look at the rankings, of course, Adesanya Whittaker 2 is going to be made. Paulo Costa Vettori makes sense because they're second and third, both coming off the losses now to the champ. Jared Cannonier could be a good shout. Obviously got Darren Till versus Derek Brunson. Now Till beats Brunson, you could probably say he jumps to cure the likes of Paulo Costa and Marvin Vettori for a next title shot, just because it's a fresh matchup for Adesanya. Only Jared Cannonier now. Actually, sorry, Jared Cannonier is the only one in the top 5. But obviously you've got Cannonier, Hermansson and Till and Hall as well, who's yet to face the champion, and Edmund Shabazian, but he's 3-4 fights away from that. He's still only 21, 22, so he's still very young, got a lot to do. So you're looking at really Darren Till, Cannonier as the next fresh matchups for Adesanya, you could say. But yeah, the Vettori fight against Paulo Costa would be sound. Both of them are very good, good strikers. Vettori's got great wrestling, and it'd be a good matchup. It'd be a good build-up to a fight as well. Obviously, Paulo Costa was supposed to be fighting Cannonier, but has pulled out. Kelvin Gastelum's going to take that spot up. Of course, maybe you get Kelvin Gastelum Adesanya down the line too. That fight was, I believe, fight of the year, wasn't it, in 2019? So it'd be interesting to see how they run it back and how the two have grown since that fight, because that was a very close fight, and you got to feel sorry for Kelvin Gastelum. He never really got that shot at Robert Whittaker. Well, saying that he did a couple of weeks ago, but with the title on the line that you're supposed to, back at UFC 236, of course. So yes, moving on to the co-main event, and now everyone enjoyed this, didn't they? Apart from Deiveson Figueiredo, but Brandon Moreno did become the Flyweight Champion after defeating Deiveson Figueiredo via submission. Of course, these two gave us a fight of the year contender back in UFC 236 last year, and I felt that Figueiredo just didn't want to be there. He came in very flat, not like his quite bullish self. He's quite aggressive, quite intimidating. He makes his mark on the cage and marks his territory, you could say. But he let Brandon Moreno do all the work on Saturday night, and Moreno came forward, gave all the pressure, and maybe you can again, going on to the previous point, the champion really doesn't have to bring the fight, but when you're getting beat up, when you're taking a lot of damage that Moreno was dealing with in that first round, you've got to ask questions. Now personally, I do believe that Figueiredo may have lost that fight on Friday. Brandon Moreno was first or second. I think only Marvin Vettori was ahead of him on the weigh-ins on Friday, but Brandon Moreno came and made weight. Well, on the contrary, you had Deiveson Figueiredo, taking up all the time and coming in at last minute. Now, of course, every fight camp's different, but it's the second time in 4 fights. Well, he's only officially missed weight once in that first fight against Joseph Benavidez, the first title fight, but there was questions of him making weight. Had he missed weight, he would have been twice in 4 fights, of course. And the last time he made weight in the first fight with Moreno, he ended up in hospital that night as well. So I think his days at flyweight are done. He is a flyweight champion. He's a fantastic competitor. He's a great striker, but I do think the future for Figueiredo is at bantamweight. I think he needs to make 135. His next bout, unfortunately, is not going to be a champ match up against the likes of Aljamain Sterling or Petr Yan, although that division is already quite stacked up to really have a champ fight with a 125 pounder in the near future. You got the likes of Rob Font and Corey Sandhagen still waiting in the wings, and TJ Dillashaw potentially. But I think for Figueiredo, it's time for him to move up to 135 pounds. Stop the harsh weight cut, because it's not doing him any favours. Cutting those extra 10 pounds. He can put on a little bit of muscle, and hopefully that power that he does have at 125 transcends into the 135 pound division. Of course, I would put him up against Cody Garbrandt for 135. I know those two had a back and forth previously at 125 with Garbrandt trying to go down and fight for the title. So I think you've already got a narrative there for Figueiredo to come up to 135 and challenge Garbrandt, of course, who's just come off that loss to Rob Font. So, there's a lot of fights at 135 for Figueiredo. I just think his days at 125 is done. But Brandon Moreno, he seems to strike up a good friendship with both Nate Diaz and Israel Adesanya in fight week and post fight week. Of course, if you saw the picture between Adesanya and Brandon Moreno, clinking the belts together, you could say. But it's a good feel factor with firstborn, Mexican champion as well. So huge for him. It's going to be. He's going to go into that next stratosphere, isn't he? In terms of marketability with the belt wrapped around his waist. His story is incredible. The last pick on the Ultimate Fighter, got cut by the UFC and then comes back and becomes the champion. And, he has got a couple fights and, a couple contenders in the waiting in the wing. Most likely Askarov next, of course, with those two have met in the cage before. And I didn't realise, but obviously Brandon Moreno, his coach on Tough was Joseph Benavidez, who lost twice to Figueiredo, so it's almost full circle for him and his coach. And it'd be interesting to see if Joseph Benavidez, should he get another win, he did lose to Askarov, so he'd have to wait for that fight to take place. But if he gets another win, you could see Joseph Benavidez versus Brandon Moreno, of course. He's still at the likes of CageChat, France, etc. in that division. It's bubbling away, but again, if you're a big name like Benavidez is, you're only one win away from a title shot, and now the champion's changed hands. If he gets a win in his next fight, waits to see what happens between Askarov and Moreno. Hopefully, he'd like to see Moreno win that fight, of course, because he's already got lost to Askarov. You can then build something around that, perhaps. But to have a quick look at the results, of course, 33 out of 45 strikes there for Figueiredo. Didn't come in with his best game plan, but again, I think Friday night took everything out of him, making weight, and he just didn't want to be there on Saturday night. And I think that showed at the end. He wasn't too disappointed. I think he was more relieved that the fight was over than disappointed that he'd lost it. And 71 strikes out of the 109 there for Moreno, 24 significant out of 36 there for Deiveson Figueiredo, and of course 47 out of 85 significant. Both had a takedown, one takedown for Figueiredo and 2 out of 2 for Moreno, so both had 100% successful takedown rate. And of course he got that rear naked choke in spectacular fashion in round 2, which had you seen his video from his gym, going absolutely mental. And that's what we love to see in this sport. We love to see the togetherness and unity that this sport brings. It is a special sport. But yes, a fantastic night in the office for Brandon Moreno, and we have got a new champion at the helm at 125. And you could build the trilogy up. Obviously, we've got a draw and a win, but it was quite a dominating win. And as we said previously, I don't want to see Deiveson Figueiredo fight at 125 anymore. Those days for him are done. He's had 3 very stressful weight cuts in his previous 4 fights. Yes, and he's got a championship, and he's got a defence under his name as well. So he's done phenomenally well. He's in the same bracket as Henry Cejudo is in that regard. So let's see him move up to 135 and see some fresh matchups where it's a Frankie Edgar, Dominic Cruz, Sean O'Malley's in the ring, Chito Vera's in there. But personally, just because of the previous, I say bad blood, the previous narrative that was built, I'd put him on there with Cody Garbrandt at 135. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And of course, we cannot forget the UK. Nate Diaz was in the house as well, fighting, making his return. His first fight since 2019. Equally, Leon Edwards was someone making a return. He's only had 7 minutes in the cage this year. Had a no contest, but his last fight was prior to either Nate Diaz's. So both of these came in with a point to prove. Some octagon rust to get rid of them. I think Leon Edwards had a good performance. It's just a shame that final minute went how it did, and Nate Diaz got the plaudits and the talking points at the end of the bout, because he almost knocked Leon Edwards out. Leon Edwards put a phenomenal performance in there for 24 minutes. Got sloppy, let his guard down, and Nate Diaz came right at the top. You're thinking, is Nate Diaz going to get a win here and ride off into the sunset? unfortunately for the UK aspect, he didn't. But I was listening to the BT Sport recap show yesterday. It would have been better had that error from Leon Edwards come in the first minute, and then he dominated the 24 minutes after that, rather than the way it did. Because you go, oh, he's just a bit rusty, maybe he's not thought in so long, he got caught. But then put 24 minutes on Nate Diaz, and he can come out, say I got corrupt in the first, only if that's not thought for a while, but I'm ready for the welterweight champion now. But I think, he's on a 9-fight win streak, 10 fights undefeated, I believe it is, with that no contest as well. So, obviously Colby Covington's next. I think that is probably, after Saturday, the right decision. It's going to make the best headlines and the best numbers for the UFC. I think Leon Edwards, unfortunately, had he gone out there and finished Nate Diaz, he had a couple of chances in the first and second. That really would have punched his ticket. But the way that the fight went, there's not many people talking about Leon Edwards right now. There's more people talking about Nate Diaz, which wasn't supposed to be the case. Leon Edwards was supposed to go in there, get the finish, get some rub off Nate Diaz and the Nate Diaz fans, and go in and face Kamaru Usman. But right now, if you told me that Kamaru Usman was facing Leon Edwards tomorrow, with all due respect to Leon Edwards, because I think he's fantastic, I would still back Kamaru Usman right now, and maybe I'd be wrong for doing so. But Kamaru Usman, when his last 2 fights and his last 3 fights, even with Colby Covington, just seems on a different level. There's no disrespect to Leon Edwards. He could go in there and shock us. He's a very real and a very game fighter, and someone who just, he doesn't have to be a Colby Covington or Masvidal to put his name out there. It's just, unfortunately, he's in that division with those sort of characters that put their name out there on a regular basis and have very strong fan bases as well. Leon Edwards does his work very quietly, grinds. He's someone who's been in training camp for a year and a half now, since that fight with Tyron Woodley got announced. He's just been in persistent fight camps and not fighting. So it's unfortunate that you've got Wonderboy and Burns. Wonderboy's got tremendous respect and a backing through the fans of MMA. So if Wonderboy beats Burns in spectacular fashion, you go right. We've got Colby, we've got Wonderboy, and Edwards, even with a 9-fight, 10-fight win streak, he's going to be put back in 4th place, even though he's third in our rankings. And he's probably going to have to fight someone like a Masvidal or a Michael Chiesa before he gets that opportunity, unless he wants to sit out for 6 or 7 months, which he can't do because he's just spent 2 years, a year out, year and a half out at the cage. So it's a real tricky spot for him, and I do feel for him. It's not like Darren Till. Darren Till can put a tweet out, get X amount of likes and retweets, and get his name out there and get straight into the mix instantly. But for Leon Edwards, and you have to respect his nature. He works hard. He works so hard to get his wins, and you saw it on such a night. It was a sublime performance. But unfortunately for him, it was Nate Diaz who got the rub of the green on Saturday night in terms of the headlines. Having all if you look at the two, you knew it was a masterpiece from Leon Edwards. Nate Diaz was battered. Yes, a lot of that was previous injuries and cuts that have healed up and left scar tissue. But there was a couple points where you think Leon Edwards was going to get the finish here. He just didn't, and I think that's the maybe the epitome of his career, you could say. But I'm hoping we see Usman and Leon Edwards within the next 12 months. I think we can put it next to maybe at the moment, with Tony Ferguson getting a title opportunity. It just seems to be in that ballpark rather than seeing something happen. But I hope as a UK fan and a British fight fan that we see Leon Edwards fight that title again within the next 12 months, as I just said. But to look at the statistics, I didn't think this was possible. Diaz actually landed more strikes than Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards was more in and out, land 2 or 3 and then come back out. And there was a couple of moments on the ground. But, you got 83 to 139, 130 out of 223 strikes each. 77 significant for Leon, while 76 significant there for Nate Diaz, and 4 out of 5 takedowns for Edwards. He had a phenomenal night and showed an array of talent and the arsenal of skills that he does possess, and just how much of an all-rounder he is. But yeah, Nate Diaz again came out the man, you could say. Those Arizona fans were cheering his name all night, and it is very unfortunate. But for Nate Diaz, I'm going to do a video about 5 opponents I do want to see him fight next. 2 of those, of course, Jorge Masvidal and Tony Ferguson. someone mentioned, well, Damian Maia himself said, let me have Nate Diaz on my final fight in my career, which I'd be down to see. Obviously, Damian Maia lost to Bilal Muhammad on Saturday night. Again, nothing to take away from that performance. It was a good performance there from Bilal Muhammad. It's just that Damian Maia looks 43 years of age. And, he didn't really have too much to offer other than attempting to go for the single leg takedown and getting Bilal to the ground. But Bilal, was very game with his takedown defense and, got the win himself. I think both Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad were probably the biggest losers of the night, even though that they won their fights, because obviously they fought a couple months ago. And, that fight didn't go to plan with no contest. And they were supposed to go in tonight and, make statements, you could say. And neither of them really made that pinpoint statement to say that they're a contender in that welterweight division, which is a tough division to be in anyhow. But to move on from that, Paul Craig had a splendid decision, or a splendid night at the office, should we say. The referee that was overlooking that fight had a horrendous night when Jamal Hill's arm was luckily dislocated and not fully broken after that tremendous armbar from Paul Craig. Hill, I felt the rim on that night because he got his arm dislocated and got 3-4 nasty elbows to the head before the referee stood in, and it was a atrocious decision from the ref. How he missed that decision and missed that happen, I don't know. We could all see it clearly on the cameras, and he stood 2 feet away from the action itself. But yes, Paul Craig got the win in tremendous fashion, did the best out of the British fighters, you could say. Obviously, Joe Calderwood and Darren Stewart unfortunately fell to defeat. Paul Craig, Leon Edwards getting the victories as well, so it was 2-2 for the UK. But yes, he looked tremendous. He shows that he's already coming out of this show in that light heavyweight division. He's got a lot of talent about him. Obviously, he beat Shogun Hua recently, and obviously last night, or Saturday night, he defeated undefeated Jamal Hill, giving him his first loss. So it's going to be interesting to see who he fights next. You're obviously looking up at like a Jimmy Crute, maybe, who's coming off that loss to Anthony Smith. Nikita Krylov, Volkan Ozdemir would be perfect for him, I think. So you're looking up at the division rather than looking at someone trying to steal that spot from you now. He's, Ryan Spann, I think, is fighting Johnny Walker. So yeah, Nikita Krylov, Volkan Ozdemir would be perfect, or Jimmy Crute. It'd be interesting to see what happens when the rankings do come out tomorrow, where he lies, or if they leave him in that same spot. But yeah, personally for me, Paul Craig, Volkan Ozdemir would be the one I'd pick out. Anthony Smith has got a fight actually against Ryan Spann, of course. So maybe do Paul Craig, Johnny Walker. That'd be a fun scrap, wouldn't it? But yes, that was the main card. Of course, Brad Riddell beat Drew Dober in what was fight tonight. Fantastic fight there to close out the prelims. Eric Handers, got that victory over Darren Stewart after their first match back in March. Lauren Murphy defeated Joan Calderwood. Now, Lauren Murphy is probably going to be fighting Valentina Shevchenko for the title. Of course, she's very much deserved that. She's on a 6-fight win streak, the longest active winning streak in that division, I believe. And she put on a solid performance. Sharon Calderwood looked good, but unfortunately it just went towards Lauren Murphy on the night, and it happens in that, take away the champion from 125. We've got a very active, very close division, a very talent-stacked division, but it's unfortunate that Valentina Shevchenko is the level or two above all of those in that division. And obviously Katlyn Chookagian is coming off the back of the win, but Lauren Murphy deserves that title shot just because of the fact that we've seen Katlyn Chookagian take on Valentina Shevchenko once already. But it's so difficult not to overlook the champion and to see anyone beating her in this 125-pound division. But having said that, that doesn't take any with credit away from Lauren Murphy and the position she's put herself in to at least challenge Valentina Shevchenko. She deserves that right and that respect to say that she is a challenger, just as Jennifer Maia did, Jessica Rai did, and Katlyn Chookagian did. It's just unfortunate. We're in a point where we're seeing, especially in women's mixed martial arts, 3 of the divisions are quite uncompetitive because we've got 2 of the greatest of all times at the helm of those divisions. Obviously, Mossad Evloev defeated Hakeem Dawoudi. That was a very close fight in the end, but it looked like Mossad had gassed out in that 3rd round, and Dawoudi was doing some good damage, but he left it a little bit too late and lost that by unanimous decision. Evloev going up to 15-0. Of course, Pani Kianzad defeated Alexis Davis by unanimous decision at 15-5. She's now at. Of course, Terence McKinney. Again, if you listened to BT, you would have heard the crazy story of Terence McKinney coming up through his career. But of course, he made his debut on the night, having stepped in very short notice. I think he'd stepped in Thursday or Friday. and he's got a 7-second knockout on his record against Matt Frathola. It was very tough, but he injured his knee, didn't he, during his celebration? It's just so typical. We saw it with Johnny Walker a couple of years ago now. A fantastic performance, a quick finish, and you get injured in the celebration, and it's interesting to see what's next to McKinney. It looks like it won't be as long as a lengthy layout as Walker did when he dislocated his shoulder, so we'll hopefully see him here in the cage at least once again in 2021. Because, he came in, beat Matt Frathola. Is a very game of position in 7 seconds. Well, it's a fantastic 1-2 that finished it, and it's just one of those unfortunate things that he got injured post win. But yeah, Steven Peterson did beat Chase Hooper. Now Chase Hooper, this kid, is very game. I know he's still very young. He's still got a lot of work to do. He's 21 years of age. He's 10-2-1 now, but there was no respect lost in how that defeat went down. He was very close a couple of times. Look at the heel hooks. His striking looks a little bit better. You can see he's been working with Wonderboy, and if Wonderboy can somehow turn him into a mini Wonderboy, you could say with that jiu-jitsu, Chase Hooper could be a problem in 2 or 3 years if he's working with Wonderboy regularly. He has that sort of frame, albeit a much smaller weight class. He has that frame where he can use that karate stance and point score with that jab and that striking ability that Wonderboy has. It's so pinpoint and so accurate that he can get in there and not take much damage. And when you had the jiu-jitsu power and the skills that Chase Hooper has, you might have one of the scariest mixed martial artists of all time in Chase Hooper. He's only 21 years of age and he's fighting at such a high level already. It'd be interesting to see where he's at 24, 25. I think he's going to have the same sort of trajectory as Max Holloway does, where at 28, 29, we're probably looking at a champion. He's looking unbeatable, but maybe there's a bit, I say a big thought off Max Holloway still in his prime. But we're going to see someone who peaks at a younger age than most fighters, I think. And obviously the rest of Ham beat Luigi Vendramini, of course, and Carlos Oliva beat Jake Collier. So all in all, a fantastic night of fights. One of those nights that you're going to watch the main event, at least the co-main event, and probably the Leon Edwards, Nate Diaz, that you're going to see that replayed. Paul Craig, you're certainly going to see replayed many a times. And again, just all around good Saturday, really. Obviously, the UFC 260 Thor's next, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 3. But we also got PFL 4 that we've got to look at as well, which was a fantastic night of fights. PFL 4 certainly delivered on Thursday, of course, where Brendan Loughnane secured his top position in the seeding of the PFL league, of course, down in featherweight, with a good performance, of course, against Tyler Diamond. It did go to a decision. It was a very scrappy fight in the end. You're thinking, how's this Tyler Diamond still standing? Brendan Loughnane threw absolutely everything at him, including the kitchen sink, and he just couldn't get him out there. The leg was beat up, his face was beat up, and you're saying, it's typical. What does he have to do to get a win here? He did climb to 21-3, got 3 points for that decision win. A lot of respect has to go to Tyler Diamond for staying in so strong. There was plenty of times where I thought, the referee should step in here and, Brendan get those extra points at the finishes. And it happened every single round. And you're looking at Tyler Diamond going, what are you made of? Absolute granite, the kid. And he did bring it, he made Brendan Loughnane. I don't think he's got a broken nose, but he had a bloody nose. He was, points where you're thinking he's gassing out. And even he made himself in the cage, went to places where he hadn't been before, and Tyler Diamond certainly made him a better fighter. It's going to be interesting to see what needs to be recovered and how recovery is going to be, because obviously they're fighting to get in 2 months to the playoffs, of course, but Brendan Loughnane put himself in a good position getting first seed, and of course we're looking at Manchester getting that belt and bringing that $1 million home on New Year's Eve to start 2022 off in the right way. But of course, Bobby Jenkins beat Bobby Moffett in a unanimous decision, the other 45-pounder on the main card. Of course, Clay Collard beat Joyton Lutterbach in a split decision. Clay Collard also, I believe, taking first place in that spot as well for the lightweight after his decision win against Anthony Pettis, of course, in the first card of the year. And of course, let's not forget Clarissa Shields making an MMA debut on Thursday night as well in very spectacular fashion. Many people here were expecting almost to go one of the other two ways. Either she gets beat or she lies for an opponent, and the fallout would have been, oh, she got a hand-picked opponent, she got an opponent to easily beat. But she had the perfect first performance in MMA, the first perfect taste of mixed martial arts in a professional standard. Brittany Elkin dominated the 2 rounds, although she didn't do much damage. She took Claressa Shields down, explored and exploited the weaknesses, but you don't expect that from, a boxer who's been predominantly stood up for the majority of their career. You expect her to be able to be taken down and see those holes in their game. Brittany Elkin showed them, but of course it's a little bit different in PFL. There's no elbows, so the ground and pound, I guess, obviously the element of ground and pound is still there, but you're not throwing those elbows or changing up the game, are you, like you would see in a UFC or a Bellator. So maybe there's a bit of damage limitation there, but Brittany Elkin didn't really offer anything once it got to the ground, and Claressa Shields showed her heart and her strength and her mental strength to push through, and in the 3rd round she came out and got a finish, and I think that was the best thing for her. We got to see weaknesses, we got to see that she got heart. She came out in the best fashion, and she came out with a 1-0 rather than an 0-1, which had the fight gone on 4 minutes, she probably would have got an 0-1 on her record. It shows that she's got a lot of work to do, but she looked okay. I think she should add some kicks into that arsenal, because she's going to beat 9 out of 10 fighters on the feet as well, because her boxing is so good. She's got a lot of power. You've heard that power, especially in her ground and pound as well. Her ground and pound was scary. And each round starts on the feet. It's not like we're going to be starting in the lost position of the final round on the ground, you could say. So she's got a chance each time that round starts. But yeah, add the jiu-jitsu in, get the grappling sorted out, get some takedown defense in there, and throw some kicks in there just to differentiate the performance up, the striking up. Because if you're heavy on the feet at least with the feet planted, and you're looking for the punching, the boxing to get you out of there, it can be easy to get taken down. It can be easy to get a single leg, etc. So for Claressa Shields, she impressed me, and she looked good on the mic as well. I know there's a lot of people putting her down because she's a boxer coming into this game. We've not seen a lot of people going from boxing into MMA. We've seen a lot of the vice versa recently, but no one's really from boxing coming into the cage like Claressa Shields has done. So yeah, she instantly earned my respect, and that respect and that stock only rose after seeing her at PFL 4. It was a fantastic performance for her, of course. Nathan Short won by split decision, of course, against Alex Martinez. Olivier Aubin-Mercier defeated Marcin Held. Loic Radzhabov defeated Ahmed Aliyev. Shane Moraes got a Kimura submission in the 2nd round against Jess Stern, and Chris Wade had a fantastic knockout that went around social media against Arman Usmanov on Thursday night as well. Of course, we had Bellator 260, where Amasov also became the Bellator Welterweight Champion against Douglas Lima, having defeated him via unanimous decision, and Jason Jackson beat Paul Daly via unanimous decision in the co-main event as well. So yes, all in all, a fantastic week for MMA, UFC 263, Bellator 260 and PFL 4. We come back again this week with PFL 5 and Dan Ige takes on the Korean Zombie in a featherweight top contending bout. Of course, both of those looking to lay claim to a title bout, which could be open, if Max Holloway loses to Yair Rodriguez. Although, I think a lot of people would put Max Holloway favourite into that. We thought he would be next in line for the title once Ortega and Volkanovski goes down. But he's opted to keep active and fight Yair Rodriguez, who's coming back in off the back of a 6-month absence due to USADA banning him, I believe. But yes, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, make sure to hit that like, and share this video on your social medias, and also follow us on social media at CageChat MMA on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and I'll see you guys on the next video.